You're listening to the weekly Parsha podcast, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramat Beit Shemesh, Israel, 5775, 2014. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Toldos. In the Parsha this week, we have the story of the sons, the twins of Yitzchak and Rivka. Isaac and Rebekah have two children, Esau and Yaakov, Esau and Jacob. And we begin to see that from the very beginning, Jacob and Esau, these two individuals, are very different. Esau is somebody who likes to go out into the world to hunt. And Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, was someone who liked to sit in the tents to study Torah, to be involved in the spiritual life. The Torah tells us that as Yitzchak Avinu, as Isaac came to a certain age, and we'll see soon what the age was and the significance of that age, but as he came to a certain age, so he felt that his end was coming, his death was coming soon. And so he decided to give over the blessings of wellness, of prosperity, of goodness in the physical realm to Esau, to Esau. Esau was someone who was involved, as we said, going out to the field, hunting. He was involved in the physical realm. Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, was someone who was involved in spirituality. And so Yitzchak saw fit to give those blessings to Esau, to Esau. Now, I don't want to focus so much on this part of the story, this aspect of the story. What I do want to focus in on is something very interesting, which is nogeh very much, I think, and I know I've been doing a lot of talking about what's going on in current events, and I don't want to talk so much about what's happening right now, but I do want to talk about and think about what, on a more global perspective, on a more, from a higher perspective, what's going on and where we're up to, kind of, in the Mashiach process, in the process of getting to the end of days, to the times of the Messiah. So there's a medrash here on this pasuk that speaks about the fact that Yitzchak was worried that perhaps he was about to pass away, and therefore he wanted to give the blessings to Esau. So there's a medrash that says as follows. I'd like to share with you. It's very interesting, and there's a lot of depth in this medrash. There's a lot of things that we can see and we can learn, and we can begin to get a picture of, or a little bit of a picture of, what's going on in the world and where we're up to. The medrash says as follows. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says, Higia adam leperak avosav. When a person gets to the same time that his parents had passed away, kodim lechamesh shanim ula'achar chamesh shanim yidag min hamisa. 5 years before and 5 years after, so a person should be worried. He should be aware of the fact that it might be his time to go. How do we know that this is true? Shekain Yitzchak Amar. Yitzchak says, Isaac says, Im l'shonav shel Abba ani magia ad achshav misbakish li. Im l'shonav shel imi ani magia. Yitzchak said, he had reached, as the Meforshim over here say, he had reached 123 years old at this point. He was 123. He knew that his mother, Sarah Imenu, Sarah, had died at the age of 127. So he was within 5 years of her age. So he was worried that he might pass on. He doesn't know. He didn't know when he was going to go. So even though his father, Avram Avinu, Abraham, had lived to the age of 175, and indeed Yitzchak would go on to live to the age of 180, but still, because he came into the within 5 years of the age, or the length of the life of his mother, Sarah, so he felt that it was appropriate to be concerned that perhaps he might pass on from the world, and he wanted to give these blessings now. So he said, I've become old. I don't know when I'm going to pass away. So now the Medrash tells us that there are 7 different things. Just like Yitzchak Avinu, Isaac was not aware, couldn't know when he was going to pass on from the world. There are 7 different things that are impossible for a person to know. And now what's significant about this, and thinking about this, whenever we look at a Medrash, we always need to know that when a Medrash puts things in the same category, when it says that these 7 things are on the same level, these are things that can't be known. So it's also coming to compare those things. It's coming to say that there's some parallel between each of these items. So let's keep that in mind as we read. Tani, we learned, Shiva dvarim mechusim b'nei adam ve'eluhein. There are 7 things that are hidden from a person, and these are they. Yom hamisa, the first thing, is the time when he's supposed to pass on from the world. V'yom hanachama. The second thing is the day when we're going to be consoled by God, when all of the things that have gone on throughout Jewish history are going to come to a culmination, and Hashem is going to show us that all of this was done, even though it was difficult and challenging, that it was all done for our good. So Yom HaNechama, the day of consolation, is a reference to when Mashiach, the Messiah, is going to come. V'oimek hadin, the depth of judgment. That's something that we can't know about. So one of the Meforshim here says a certain pshat in Omek Hadin, but I'm inclined to understand it as that it's speaking about the depth of a person's judgment, whether it's after a person passes away, he comes up to the next world and they review his life and they determine, if he's going to have to spend some time in a place which is unpleasant as a result of his deeds, to burn off some of that ego that he developed through his life, or if he's going to go to a place of Gan Eden because he had burnt it off while he was still alive. That judgment or that review, that working through what had happened, is something that he can't understand. It's something which is beyond him. It's not. We can't know how the depth of that judgment is going to apply. Another thing which is out of the range of a person's knowledge is what he's going to do that's going to actually make him money. A person will try this particular item, he'll sell this thing, he'll try another thing, right? My father had a store, he has a store, and they'll buy a few different items, new items for their store, and they never know which is the item that people are going to be interested in. So that's something which is, it's almost like trying to look at the future. What's the item that is going to benefit people, that people are going to be interested in? That's something that a person can't know what he's going to make his money from. Another thing that's out of the range of a person's awareness is what's inside of the heart of his friend, what's inside of someone else's heart and thoughts. A person doesn't know what's inside of the stomach of a woman, meaning it's not possible to really know. Obviously, we're speaking about in times of the Medrash, but there's a significant understanding of it. Even if, we could be talking about today, there's a depth to this, we'll get to it really soon. But a person can't know what's going to be as far as a child, which is hidden inside of the mother, inside of the womb. And a person also can't know when the galus, when the exile of the Jewish people is going to end, when the forces of evil, the evil kingdom is going to end such that the Mashiach, the Messiah, can come. Now, so each of these different things represent different aspects, different concepts, which a person can't know about. I can't know when Mashiach is going to come. I can't know when the Messiah is going to come. I can't know what's in the heart of someone else. I can't know what the nature is of a child that's inside of its mother's womb. I can't know all of these different things. Now, in order to have a depth of understanding of this Medrash, I want to share with you a Cabalistic concept, an idea which, don't be afraid of the word Cabalistic. It's not something which is out of the range of our understanding. It's something which is a straightforward idea which has very deep ramifications and will help us to understand what's going on in the Medrash. The concept is like this. The Mekubalim, the Kabbalists, speak about the moichin. They speak about the brains of the human being. And we have an idea of Chochmah, Binah, and Keser. Chochmah means wisdom, Binah means intuitive understanding, and Keser means a crown. Now, these three different aspects have to do with a person's understanding, a person's intuition, a person's knowledge. And the concept of the crown, we'll see soon what that has to do with understanding and wisdom. But just let's look at this on a very simple level. Chochmah, we can relate it. Chochmah is on the right side, but being as the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body, so it's important to know that Chochmah is related to the left brain, as opposed to Binah, which is intuitive understanding, which is really on the left side, but it's related to the right brain. So we all know that right-brained people are more intuitive, are more creative. So that aspect of that intuition and creativity are related very much to Binah, which is intuitive understanding, which is also related to the female side. And the concept of Chochmah, which is wisdom, is related to the male side, and it's the left brain. It's the more practical and the more sensing, what's in front of me. That's the left brain, and that's the aspect of Chochmah. Now, when we look at Chochmah and Binah, these two ideas both are things that, a person looks at the facts, he looks at reality, and he gets certain things that he can understand. Let's say I'm learning a piece of Gemara. So I have the words of the Gemara, I have the concepts of the Gemara, of the Talmud, and I'm able to learn things and understand ideas. Now, Binah, the concept of intuitive understanding, I can take the words or the concepts that I've learned, and the word Binah comes from the word bain, which means between, or to lahavin, to understand. Meaning I can take the information and I can read between the lines. I can create intuitive ideas that will help me understand things beyond the facts that are in front of me. But in both the case of Chochmah and the case of Binah, these two ways of understanding are simple, straightforward, based on what I can understand and see through my senses. Now, the concept of Keser, and this is really important, the concept of Keser is something which is transcendent. A Keser is a crown. A crown sits on top of the head. So just like a crown is on top of the head, so Keser represents knowledge which I access, which is beyond anything that I can sense with my mind or with my senses, or even intuit. It's something that I get. It's information that I can only access by somehow accessing a transcendent, a realm which is beyond me, which is beyond my senses, which is beyond my brain. And here, it's very much, this concept of Keser is very much connected to the concept of Binah. Binah is intuitive understanding. I'm putting the pieces together and I'm trying to understand what's happening without having all of the information, right? So I'm getting something by playing around and trying to understand what's going on a deeper level. That's Binah. But Keser is even higher than Binah. Keser is beyond Binah. Keser is something which is like, it's like information that I couldn't even get by trying to read between the lines. It's information that I can only get from a higher perspective, from Hashem, let's say, from God, or from like a Navi, a prophet, who has this ability to see beyond time, who's outside of time, let's say, or who's beyond the picture, who's able to see the broader picture from outside, not by trying to put together the pieces from the inside. Now the question is, how does one access Keser? How does one get into a higher realm, a higher understanding, a transcendent place, such that he can have that deeper understanding? So now, the Medrash here says that there are 7 things that a person can't access. And really all of these different things, each of the 7 different things that are mentioned in this Brisa, are things that are in a transcendent realm. They're in what we could call a place of Keser. They're outside of anything. They're transcendent. They're things that are outside of our realm. Really, they're entering into a new realm, a transcendent place. You know, if you want to get to the world of Mashiach, you want to get to the times of Mashiach, of Messiah, you want to know how to get there, you can't even think about when that's going to happen. In a certain sense, that place is beyond time, or that the time of when that's going to happen is beyond time. It's getting out of our current understanding of time and our current understanding of physical reality. So it's something which, because it's in a place of Keser, in a transcendent place, we can use our Chochmah, we can use our Binah, we can use our wisdom, we can use our understanding, our intuitive faculties. We can try to put the pieces together, but we can never actually nail exactly when it's going to be or what it's going to look like. Yom HaMisa is the first thing that we have in this list. The day of a person's death, that can't be known. And what happens when a person dies is that he sheds the physical reality within which he has lived. He sheds his physical body, and it's like he's taking off his clothes, so to speak. And now his soul, which was inside of the body, moves on to a higher realm. Indeed, passes through the realms that we spoke about last week. He goes through the Maras Machpelah, through the Cave of the Patriarchs, and that's a channel into the higher realm. It's that light at the end of the tunnel that you may have heard people speak about who've had near-death experiences. That light at the end of the tunnel, as a person gets into that light, he comes out into a place of Keser. He comes out into a transcendent realm. That's something that, because I live within this realm, I can't understand. I can't even know about the day of my death. Yom HaNechama, the day when Hashem is going to console the Jewish people, the Messiah is going to come. That's a new realm, a new time. It's beyond our time. It's beyond our physical reality. We can't know when that's going to happen. The Oimek Hadin, the depth of the judgment of a person, you know, we don't see the way the world really is. We don't relate to the world as it truly is. We don't have that all-encompassing ability to see that the way that Hashem sees it from a higher perspective. So we can't know what the judgment of us is going to look like because we don't relate truly to our actions and the effect that they have in all of the upper realms and how that ricochets back into our realm. We can't know about that. A person can't know about what he's going to do to make a living. Making a living, as we've also mentioned in the past, has to do with Hashem's shefa, the influx that Hashem brings down into the world for a person. That's coming from a much higher realm. And so where's that channel going to come through? I can't know that. I can't know because it's something really in the future that I'm not going to find out until it actually happens. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these 7, but I just want to go through one more, which is I can't know what's inside of the woman. The woman who's pregnant, I can't know what the characteristics are of that child. I can't know everything about that child. Even today, I can't know everything. Many times the sonograms that are done, they're inaccurate. They say certain things and the baby comes out and it's completely different. They say a certain weight, or I've heard stories where they said that there was something wrong with the baby and there was nothing wrong with the baby. And so you can't really know, you can't really sense what's going on in a child who's inside of the womb. It's in a place which is beyond our reality. And indeed, and this is the significant one here, when that baby is going to come into the world, so in a certain sense, that baby is moving into a new reality. In the place where it is, that baby, that child, is in a place of complete darkness. We could call it even a place of Chochmah and Binah, a place of a certain level of knowledge, of reality, but that baby inside of its mother is in darkness. That baby it hears faint sounds, it senses, faintly the light that might be penetrating, but it's in a place of complete darkness. It's in one realm. And then the baby comes into the world, and now it's in a new realm. The bottom line here, and the idea that I want to bring across, is that we exist in a certain realm. We exist in a certain time. And the way that the world progresses, the way that time progresses, is that we experience successive movement from one time period to another time period. And as we go out of one time period, just like a child is born out into the world, and then it takes another 9 months for that child to start to be more involved in the world, to be able to walk, to be able to start speaking. And there are successive movements, there's successive processes that are part of the world that we exist within. And that's expressed in not knowing what's going to be the time of the death, which is the moving on to the next stage of a person's life, so to speak. We don't know when that's going to happen, but the point is that there are successive movements from one stage to another. And I think that it's very significant at this point in the story. Yitzchak Avinu, Isaac, is about to give a blessing to Esau. And what happens is he doesn't give that blessing to Esau. Instead, Jacob Avinu, Jacob, takes the blessing. And now what happens is Yitzchak he thinks that he's moving on to a successive stage. And there's a truth to that. He's not moving on to his death. He's not going to die for another 60 years or so. But still, what's happening is there's a new stage, a significant new stage that's about to happen in the life of the Jewish people. Yaakov Avinu is now going to steal those blessings. He's going to have to go to Haran to run away from Esau, and he's going to have to experience the 22 years of hardship and challenge in his interactions with Lavan, with Laban. And then he's going to go through all that 22 years of experience. Then he's going to enter into a new stage, which is going to come back. And the whole story with Yosef, the 22 years of him being away from his father, from Yaakov, from Jacob, is going to happen. There are successive stages and moving into new places that occur that we can't know what's going to happen. Yaakov Avinu couldn't have known that at this moment there's going to be a brand new reality that he's going to enter into as a result of him stealing these blessings. He didn't know that that was about to happen. That was outside of his knowledge. It was in a place of Keser, in a transcendent place, in time and in conceptual space. The next 22 years, he couldn't have known that this other thing is going to happen. And the idea here is, and the bottom line of it is, for me and for you perhaps, that in our lives and in reality, there are successive stages. And as we complete a stage, there's almost, you see it in the story clearly. As you get to the end of that stage, there's a traumatic experience that blows a person into the next stage, the next challenge, the next place, and blows them beyond the reality in which they exist. We could think of what happened about 70 years ago with the Holocaust as being a transcendent movement from one stage to another, paralleling what happened with Yaakov, where Yaakov experienced this intense craziness with his brother Esau, who was ready to kill him. And then he moved on to be able to start creating the Jewish people. And he had the 22 years of that. That was a whole stage, a new stage. The Jewish people over the last 70 years has gone through another stage of rebirth, of returning to Israel. Yes, there was return that was happening before. In 1948, there were 600,000 Jews in Israel already. But now we have 6 million Jews in Israel at this point. So there are stages in the growth of the Jewish people that we see occurring. And what's fascinating and worth thinking about is this parallel between the Ibur Shel Isha, the birth of a child, where it's the child is in one stage and then comes out into the world to another stage, which takes 9 months. And there are many parallels between the 9 months, and we've mentioned this in the past, but there are many parallels between the 9 months of the Ibur, of the development of a child inside of its mother, and the concept of the number of 70, the 70 years. And there are different places where this applies. I've spoken about this in different places in the Mashiach podcasts. But the 9 months, this development, this movement forward, this going from one stage to another. We have this 9-month period. Every time we have a leap year, from Av of the previous year until Adar Beis, the second Adar, there's a 9-month period, which the Parsha in Sanhedrin speaks about in Daf Yud Beis on page 12. Worth looking at that, worth seeing more about it. But you have these stages, these consecutive stages, these movements forward that produce new realities and bring us through to challenges. And then the challenges break us through into a place of Keser, into a place of transcendence. And as we go through the challenges, it feels like literally like birthing pains. You know what happened this week with this incredibly tragic situation, the attack on the synagogue in Jerusalem. It was a place, there was the same street. I lived on that street for 3 years, and that shul, I didn't daven there regularly. I didn't pray there often, but I did pray there at times. There's a hall underneath the shul. I've sang in that place numerous times. And, you know, this is something, it's a tragedy which is unspeakable. It's unspeakable, but we need to know, and we will see, just like the tragedy that occurred in the summertime, where it was like intense, where these three boys were kidnapped and murdered, and it created a new reality inside of Israel, where we saw miracles happen. We saw that there was an attempt, there was a plan for there to be an incredible attack on Rosh Hashanah, and that was uncovered and prevented because of the loss, the intensity. I believe the intensity of these types of experiences for the Jewish people is something which moves us into the next place, into the next realm, and protects us and creates a new reality for us. The intensity of it, to the degree that we feel it intensely, and when we have these experiences, these are things that make us grow, that if we have the right perspective on them, they can produce humility within us. And I heard a lot of that. The speaking about, you know, this Shabbos being a time where we have Avas Chinam, you know, free, giving out free love, so to speak, and a time of forgiving others, a time of moving past the anger that we've had with others. This is how the Jewish people approaches this type of challenge, this type of situation. We don't get angry. We don't lash out at the international community. There's people who are responsible for making sure that we don't get misrepresented. But our job as individuals, each of us, is to look at, how can I be better? How can I be more humble? How can I improve my relationships with those around me, with myself, with Hashem, with God? We can't know when death is going to strike. We can't know when the day of Hashem's ultimate consolation, when we'll be able to reach that transcendent perspective where we see all of those things, how it truly in the end was good and it moved us forward in our redemption process. But what we can do is know. We can look back at all of the different stages of our history, and we can look back and we can say, we can use our Binah, we can use our understanding, our intuitive understanding, we can use our Chochmah, our wisdom, the looking at the facts. We can read between the lines, and we can start to get a little bit of a picture. And we can start to realize that all of this is like the Ibura Shel Isha. All of this is like the process of birth, of moving beyond the reality within which we exist, entering into a new reality, into a greater world, where we'll look back one day and we'll see that it was all for our best, that all of the challenges, all the hatred, all of the anger, all that stuff, all of the things that we've experienced that look so bad, ultimately we will see. We will be able to experientially we'll be able to feel that it was truly for our best. Hashem should bless us to be able to have this understanding, this depth, and Hashem should help us to indeed be able to move through these situations, these difficult situations, and be able to reach that day, the Yom HaNechama, the day when the Malchus HaRasha, all the forces of evil, they're all broken, and we have that ultimate consolation. Hashem is showing us His light and His goodness, and we have that spirituality for all times. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful Shabbos. This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.